You're watching the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. I'm Tyler Jones, and we're going to talk about the Thunder's hot streak, 8 straight wins. Are they playing their best basketball right now? We'll discuss coming up in a matter of moments.
I'm Rylan Stiles, going to tell you why this road trip is so important for Oklahoma City.
I'm Derek Parker, and we're going to look at March Madness players to watch.
This is Locked On's Thunder Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Thunder talk gets real. No filters, no fluff, just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game, the way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Thunder Squad Show starts now.
Good, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us, joined alongside by Rylan Stiles, Derek Parker, Jeremy Lamb out today. He'll be back on Thursday. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We got so much to touch on here on today's show. We'll begin with the Thunder's 8-game winning streak. Are they playing their best basketball right now? We'll discuss that. Also, the longest road trip of the year officially begins tonight as the Thunder face the Orlando Magic with a 5-game road trip over 10 days all across the East Coast. We'll dissect that. SGA's streak, it lives to see another day. Came very close to ending on Sunday, but he's still going along. How much longer will it continue? We'll discuss. And then March Madness is here, ladies and gentlemen, beginning tonight officially with the first 4. Who are some of the top players to watch in the NCAA tournament that could potentially find their way to Oklahoma City this summer? We'll discuss that as well coming up in our final segment. Guys, let's get after it right away. The Oklahoma City Thunder on fire. 8 straight wins as of late, playing some really good basketball. And one of the things that I've noticed, Rylan, in this stretch, the defensive intensity has picked up a notch from this bunch. More so back to the Thunder basketball we're accustomed to seeing. That seems to be the case of what's happened over the last couple of weeks here. But OKC playing really well as they're just a few weeks away from the playoffs and all. Rylan, is this the best basketball we've seen from Oklahoma City so far this year? What's your take here?
I think it's the most complete basketball. Obviously, 24-1 start is hard to beat when you look at the output that they were able to have earlier on in the year. But right now, you're looking at them getting back to their way of playing defensively, getting in passing lanes, being able to generate turnovers, being able to get stops and long rebounds going their way. Obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein was huge on the glass on Sunday against Minnesota, and the defense has led to offense. And I think that what makes them a more complete version of their team is by their internal development. You've seen over this stretch since the All-Star break ended, they've gotten a lot better whenever they've had to go without Shai on the court, and that's been a product that has not always been the cleanest for OKC, their half-court offense in particular, without SGA there to bail them out. And right now, you're seeing A.J. Mitchell be a massive plus to this team as a table-setting guard. You're seeing them find wrinkles that they can consistently go to, both now and in the postseason, with the DHOs from Isaiah Hartenstein and Jay Will setting up these shooters and Isaiah Joe and Jared McCain. The gravity that those shooters have, putting defenses in tough spots where either you're going to have to stay true to them, which you should because of their marksmanship from beyond the arc, or you're going to have to collapse onto the superstar in SGA, which you should because he's an incredible all-time great scorer, and you're kind of in a rock and a hard place here if you're a defense trying to figure out this Thunder offense. So in all facets, they're playing a lot better than they have in a more complete fashion than they have, something that can really alleviate some of the postseason concerns, because last year, while they won a championship, their half-court offense was not good in the postseason, especially with Shai off the floor. Their shooting was 13th out of 16 teams in the playoff field from beyond the arc. That's not sustainable to winning. And now you've kept up that elite defensive ability. You've now improved your three-point shooting, and you've improved your processing and shot quality in the half court. That's all going to lead to greater success for this team in the games that matter the most, as you've seen on this homestand, a perfect homestand against all postseason teams and 3 contending teams at the end of it. So the Thunder were able to play some really great basketball recently.
Derek, one point I would also bring up, you talk about timing. The San Antonio Spurs have been so hot since the All-Star break and, kind of creeping on Oklahoma City in the standings. For them to crank it in gear and get on this win streak they've been on, could not have come at a better time with how well San Antonio's looked.
100%. I think a lot of people expected this Thunder team and still expect this Thunder team to be able to turn it on when it matters. And I would argue these last few weeks absolutely mattered. I mean, you look at some of these wins that they really did need in terms of keeping the 1 seed, Minnesota, Boston, Denver, all in a row, even wins over the Golden State Warriors, the New York Knicks in the East, big wins. So yeah, I think when you look at it in terms of, are they playing their best basketball? A little bit of a loaded question, so I'll go with a loaded answer. I like Rylan's thought process. It could be their most complete basketball. I think especially when you look at these teams, the 24-1 start was pretty insurmountable, I think, in terms of just general success. They were playing unbelievable. It looked like almost unimpenetrable basketball then. But when you actually factor in the opponents here, to your point, Tyler, the fact that they really need these wins at this point in the season, I think this very well could be their most complete stretch yet.
We are live here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Derek Parker here with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Rylan, in that 8-game stretch, what has impressed you the most to this point?
I think that it's in their half-court offense because the defensive ability, to Derek's point, you always knew was there. You always knew that they could lean on that side of the floor, that they could kick it into gear at a moment's notice. They can even do that within the same games. You look at some of that messy stretch in December. You think back to that Atlanta game, that Philadelphia game, where they didn't have anywhere close to their best stuff in the first half, played with their foot a little bit, and then in the second half, they were just juggernauts on that end of the floor. Like, that was always going to come back to them. But the newfound success as an offensive group, where you have a guy in A.J. Mitchell who can do so many things, where he can get to the paint for himself and score at the rim, get to the free throw line. He can also spray out to others and create open threes for McCain and Joe. And also, whenever you envision what this team will look like once J-Dub does return, it takes a lot of pressure off of J-Dub. Because last year, with A.J. Mitchell dealing with the turf toe surgery that really ended his season in January for all intents and purposes, when Shai was not on the court, it turned into, okay, J-Dub, it's all on you to figure this out. Like, you got to save this offense in a big way. And that's a lot to put on a guy who's now dealing with 2 different hamstring strains where he re-aggravated it. He also, of course, is still coming back from that wrist surgery in the offseason. Having a guy like A.J. Mitchell who can orchestrate an offense and who can put J-Dub in a position to succeed and who can allow J-Dub to play a more off-ball role if necessary, the one that he's comfortable with playing off of Shai already naturally, that just alleviates any sort of concerns of working him back into the room as well. On top of the fact that AJ's really shown you an ability to be a more prolific scorer. It's not just barreling his way to the rim anymore. He's able to read the floor. The game has slowed down for him, where if he sees drop coverage, he can take one dribble into the nail, shoot a mid-range jumper off the bounce. Like, that's big-time stuff for A.J. Mitchell. And then, like we talked about earlier, they've really found an identity to their offense. And to be able to weave in and out of 2 different identities offensively is hard to do, but OKC does it. Whenever Shai's on the court, it's obviously a more heliocentric offense around Shai. He's someone who's in charge of making the defense react to him and allowing him to make great plays. When Shai's off the court, it is a more team style of offense from the standpoint of, you don't have right now, especially with J-Dub not out there, you don't have a guy who you can lean on to just make things happen for you. So you've got to have player movement and ball movement to get this thing done. And so you're seeing Isaiah Joe get a screen from Jared McCain, come off that screen to a DHO with iHeart, come off that DHO down the lane, and now you have 2 different guys open from beyond the arc, especially with J-Will out there, whenever J-Will can actually shoot the 3 ball. And so, like, you're seeing a whole different identity to this team, and one that blends together perfectly, and one that can actually help them alleviate the 2 concerns they had a year ago, which, I mean, look, first round series and West Finals combined, they lost 1 total game. The reason the other 2 series went to 7 games was there were too many games in those series that you just fell apart for too long of stretches offensively to get that win. So this really does help them. So that's what's been the most impressive to me, is finding that identity for what happens when you don't have Shai to lean on.
So Rylan mentioned that we see 2 different playing styles that the Thunder have basically been able to use in this stretch to get them through. And Derek, one thing I would point to, if we're going to take a ride on the hot tub time machine back to earlier this season, when the Thunder went through their lull and they lost those games against San Antonio and all of that, to where they're at now, I know that they haven't played San Antonio in this 8-game winning streak, but I feel like that they've made enough adjustments. And from what we've seen inside, their inside presence, I think personally they're much better equipped to take on a team like San Antonio than they were just even a couple months ago based on how they've adapted and adjusted here. What say you?
Yeah, I think that extends even further than San Antonio as well. I think they're just better equipped in general, to all of Rylan's points. I think they're simply playing better basketball. I think they have gotten better through the course of the regular season while still having a higher ceiling than we're seeing now because of the fact that J-Dub is out. If you remember also, AJ Mitchell didn't play in those Spurs games. So I think one of the number one reasons that those went so poorly was, number one, I guess I would say, is that the Spurs were shooting the lights out of the gym. There wasn't a lot to be helped in terms of that. The intensity was not there defensively. I think the Thunder would refine that in a theoretical postseason scenario. Additionally, they just didn't have AJ Mitchell. So I think not only has AJ Mitchell returned to the lineup, he's brought the self-creation that he does. You've also seen the Thunder implement him in a successful way. He's gotten better at self-creating, in addition to the lineup wrinkles that Rylan was talking about in terms of the Isaiah Joe wrinkles, the Jared McCain, AJ Mitchell, all of these different configurations that you're seeing that just give this team so much optionality. So I guess a long-winded way of answering your question, Tyler, is yes. I think they're better adapted to not only take on the Spurs, but to take on the Celtics and the Nuggets and all these teams. And I think eventually, once Jalen Williams, J-Dub is back, they'll be even better equipped.
I think you're absolutely right about that. Rylan, now with the Thunder on this 8-game winning streak, we'll talk about in our next segment the road trip coming up here. But just where they're at now, do you think the streak is going to continue? How long do you think they can keep this hot streak going here?
Yeah, we'll talk about the road trip. It's going to have to continue. You have to get these games if you're Oklahoma City, with San Antonio right on your heels, especially with what each respective schedule looks like. Look, the differential right now of 3.5 games, you have to consider that San Antonio also has the tiebreaker with Oklahoma City to booster their case even more than that. But furthermore, Oklahoma City, they have 5 games that I'd consider still tough remaining. San Antonio has 2. And so it's going to really come down to which side drops too many games that they shouldn't. Which side looks back at this stretch right here and says, man, if you just would have shown up against Brooklyn, if you just would have showed up against Washington in the afternoon, if you just would have shown up, against Chicago at home, like whichever side has less of those, if you just would have showed up games down the stretch, is going to be the 1 seed. Because right now you look at these 2 teams playing great basketball. The Spurs did not lose a game in the month of February, and they've only dropped 2 since the All-Star break. Like, they've been incredible. Oklahoma City on an 8-game winning streak. They've also been awesome in dealing with all the injury adversity that they've had to deal with. And you look at San Antonio, one reason why they haven't gained ground is because they blew a 20-point lead against Denver. And like that could come back to haunt them if Oklahoma City makes it so. If they make them pay for that by winning these games that they need to win and that they should win.
Show is presented by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Derek, when you look ahead to the playoffs here, how important is it for Oklahoma City to be playing close to their best basketball, have the momentum carry over to when the playoffs begin, in your eyes?
Yeah, I do think it's important. I say it a lot, but I think when teams show you who they are in the regular season, you have to believe them. And I think that extends to the Thunder. The Thunder haven't necessarily shown that they're going to be a healthy team in the postseason. I don't know that you can expect them to just magically wrap all this up and move into the postseason with a 100% healthy roster. But in that same breath, I think they've also proven that they are still a competitive team. They are still a contender even with all these injuries. So I think in looking at this holistically, I think you're still looking at a contender. I do, though, think it is important to continue to get better through the end of the regular season. It would be really easy to look at this next stretch of games and say the only goal here is to keep the 1 seed and keep that from San Antonio and just get to the postseason. I think you still have to be looking to get better. And I think obviously that starts with folding Jalen Williams, J-Dub in when he gets back into the lineup. That's a huge part of this. But it's also just getting better across the entirety of the roster. I think there's room for Shai to continue seeing these different coverages and looks and excelling in playmaking, because I think that is going to be a huge, huge part of this postseason. AJ Mitchell just missed a huge stretch of games. There's obviously still some work back there for him. Isaiah Joe can continue to build. Jared McCain, obviously very fresh to this system. AJ Mitchell, all of these different pieces, I think You still want to look to get better through the rest of this regular season. You've got some runway, but you're running out.
And we'll end this segment on this. Rylan, what do you think Mark's messaging is to the team over these next couple of weeks as they, go on this final push before the playoffs begin? What do you think he's telling these guys right now?
I think he's telling them that to be 0-0 and that there's a lot of season left, because there really is a lot of season left whenever you boil it down to. If you recontextualize a stretch of March 17th until April 12th, if you put that at the start of the season, we'd be making a lot of observations about this stretch and saying that there's a lot to still learn about this team. But now it's at the end of the season, we don't view it as a lot of time. We view it as time is running out when it's still pretty lengthy of a stretch for OKC, especially to Derek's point of getting to see these different coverages on Shai. And one of the things that he's had to do over this homestand is get the ball out of Shai's hands. He's had to make quick decisions, and that's led to a lot of guys operating out of the short roll as playmakers, like Alex Caruso, who's made some great decisions, either rolling all the way to the rim and getting a bucket for himself, or out of the short roll, throwing a touch pass to the corner for an open three. Working that out and knowing how you can beat all these different coverages will be a big one. Continuing to solve your secondary offense and be sharp on that, and will be another one. And then also just heading into the postseason, riding that high of you got time in more ways than one. You're going to have this road trip, then you get a long homestand again, the longest one of the year, and then you get a whole week off for the play-in tournament to play out. So you're going to have the time off to get right. You're going to have the time off to get some practices in. Right now, just take care of business in the regular season, and they're going to stay 0-0. And there's stuff to learn in every game. Look, they have a back-to-back tomorrow, and we don't know this, but it would be not shocking at all to see Shai not play in the second night of a back-to-back. That's another opportunity for a guy like Cason Wallace, for a guy like AJ Mitchell, and these guys to get longer runways of roles that they could find themselves in high pressurized moments, and to work the kinks out in a low pressurized moment in Brooklyn for a team that has the same goal that you do tomorrow, is for the Thunder to win a basketball game. So I think that the season is still lending itself to OKC getting better, and for OKC to continue to take advantage of the opportunities.
More to come on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Let's talk about the road trip that the Thunder are about to go on. Their longest of the season. We'll preview that. SGA's streak is still alive and well. How long will it continue? We'll discuss that as well as we continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Stay with us. Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. My selection, cotton candy, a delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, a hint of vanilla, the sweet side of tasty caffeine, throwback flavor with a boost, light, airy candy profile, nostalgic, carnival-style taste, pure sweetness from start to finish. 5-hour energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. 5-hour energy has a lot of upcoming flavors, innovations planned. And, personally, I'd like to see if they could find a way to get some chocolate involved. Wouldn't that be cool if they did so? And a lot of these flavors are just available for a limited time, folks. So you got to take advantage of them while you can. Find your new flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Welcome back to the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Derek Parker, Rylan Stiles, Tyler Jones back here with you now. Thanks for joining us. Join the Everydayer Club now with code MARCH and get your first month free. If you sign up before the NCAA tournament tips off this Thursday, you can compete against Rylan in our men's and women's bracket pools on Discord. The winner in each will get $100 in Locked On merch. The rest of us can be a part in the members-only chats as our brackets blow up. And as a member of the club, you get an ad-free version of this show. Again, it's free for a month with code MARCH over at lockedonthunder.supercast.com. That's lockedonthunder.supercast.com to play along today. All right, guys, let's talk about the road trip now for Oklahoma City. They're about to play 5 games in a 10-day stretch, all on the East Coast. It begins tonight in just a couple hours against the Orlando Magic. Then they'll play the Brooklyn Nets in the second game of a back-to-back. That's followed up by a trip to Washington to take on the Wizards, and then a trip to Philly to take on the 76ers. And then they wrap up the 5-game stretch by facing the Boston Celtics in Boston. So looking at this 5-game and 10-day stretch, Derek, what stands out to you of what's ahead for Oklahoma City here?
Yeah, it stands out to me that there is some so-so games and one really, really good game. You know, two of these teams are actively repositioning themselves for the NBA draft, as Rylan knows that I love to say. The others I just am not massively impressed with in the Magic and the Sixers, much to the dismay of Rylan and his Sixers. The Celtics, though, that is going to be an unbelievable game. I'm excited for that one already in Boston. Again, we've touched on it here before, but could very well be a finals preview. The rest of these, though, again, very manageable, very achievable for the Thunder. It's a road stretch. I think these are the exact teams you would want to see in a road stretch. Again, manageable games, should be getting Orlando, should be getting especially Brooklyn and Washington. You got to take care of business against the Sixers and then, of course, the Boston game. So interesting stretch. Again, exactly what you want to see out of a road stretch.
Yeah. To Derek's point there, Rylan, if you said like, hey, you're taking a road trip, 5 games in 10 days, part of the reason why they're on this road trip is because of the NCAA tournament games that are happening at Paycom Center on Thursday and Saturday. You got to be thinking to yourself like, hey, this actually is not that bad. This is pretty manageable, especially this late in the season. And we know that, going into the second half of the year that Oklahoma City had one of, if not the toughest schedules remaining in the entire league.
It comes at a good time for the Thunder where you look at the travel involved also. Yes, there's a back-to-back involved going from Orlando to Brooklyn. Once you get to Brooklyn, they'll spend a couple days there. Then they'll fly to Washington. So you have 2 days off before that Wizards game. Then you have just the trip up to Boston, to Philadelphia and Boston, which is as close as you can get pretty much for traveling with the team to these games. So there'll be easier travel, as easy as travel as you can expect on a road trip like this. And the games, repositioning is a very nice way to say what these teams are doing. Perhaps Kenrich or somebody can have a Bam Adebayo game against Washington Sunday afternoon. We'll have to see what that Brian Keefe defense looks like on Saturday. But it's a situation where it's a classic TCB trip. Got to take care of business for OKC. They have one team that has any teeth to them that comes at the very end of this road trip in Boston in a game that naturally just get you going. I know it's getaway day. I know it's the last game of the trip, but you're playing in the Garden, which is just this magical TD Garden, magical place, historic place. You're playing the Boston Celtics, who I think that everyone considers to be a formidable contender. And I think right now, if you had to stake a claim to a bet on who would make it to the finals, you'd pick OKC and Boston right now. So you get a rematch with them. Tatum will likely play that game, hopefully. It's going to be an awesome atmosphere, awesome game. So that'll obviously boost what usually is a letdown on the last day of a road trip. So overall, it works out pretty well for OKC.
Rylan calls this a TCB road trip. I'm going to take it a step further. I'll call this a BTA road trip. Belt to, and I probably can't say that last word on Locked On, but if you know. Right, Derek, like for me, what I'm looking for Oklahoma City is with some of these teams that they should dominate. Point spreads are going to be pretty high, and some of these matchups here. This should be looked at as an opportunity to BTA and allow some guys to get some rest in the fourth quarter here.
Yeah, I think that's where the 0-0 mentality comes in. They don't want to get too high. They don't want to get too low. They want to play even keel. And I think even keel in this stretch should get you some wins, certainly more wins than losses, and maybe even potentially for, again, this Thunder team that is top of the league right now, has the depth, even accounting for the injuries. I think that should get you 4 wins, potentially 5 wins in this stretch. So the 0-0 mentality, it's been a little more up and down this season. We've talked about it, but I think even the middling version of that should get you wins against Orlando, who was playing some pretty hot basketball, but suffered a loss the other night to the White Hot Hawks. The Nets, again, repositioning, the Wizards repositioning, and then Philadelphia, and finally Boston. I think 0-0 mentality, this is the point, Rylan, we touch on it all the time. This is the exact stretch that you can kind of see that in action. You've got some high points here. You've got some low points. You want to see kind of a middling level of output across all of these games. and that should net you some wins.
100%. It should. And starting with this game against the Magic tonight, Rylan, Oklahoma City favored by 9.5, going on the road, as we mentioned, first of 5 in this road trip. What are you looking forward from the Thunder tonight against Orlando?
I'm interested in the Magic. They've gotten back to their defensive identity as of late. Out of this All-Star break, they're playing their best basketball at 10-4, and what's been a disappointing season in Orlando, frankly. This is why the regular season still does matter in the NBA, contrary to what people on the mothership will tell you. The Magic were thought to be a lock for a top 4 seed in the East, and they floundered out of the gates in this season. They're trying to regroup, but I have liked the fact that their defense has gotten better. However, their offense is still put together by duct tape and a prayer. And I think that this Thunder defense should be able to suffocate the life out of them. Paolo should just be in misery today. He'll be listening to Marvin's Room after the game. It's going to be a Thunder blowout, I think.
Tell it like it is. I love it there, Rylan. Great stuff on that front. Derek, then you move on past Orlando, and we're talking about the Nets and the Wizards and the 76ers before they get to that Boston game. And, one thing I go back to several months ago when the Thunder went on their losing streak, we basically heard Jalen Williams say in a nutshell that, yeah, we kind of got bored, a little uninterested. Now that with these opponents coming up after Orlando, I think that you have to kind of warn yourselves of sorts, like you can't let that happen again of what happened a few months ago, because there's so much at stake right now.
Yeah, that's certainly, in this NBA, you can get beat by anybody. I will say, in regard to the Nets and Wizards specifically, these are 2 out of the 3 of the worst teams in the league. They are in a very tight race to earn the top odds at the 2026 NBA draft, which, as we'll touch on a few sections from now, has some absolute units of players in it. They are actively looking to lose these games. And again, anyone can beat you. It can happen. Those 2 games specifically, I think the Thunder honestly will sleepwalk through. I know you never want to say that, especially with this Thunder team. They won't tell you that. No one around the organization will tell you that. It's 0-0. But those teams, not worried in the slightest about those, especially against Orlando and Philadelphia. I think that's where this comes into play. These teams, absolutely, you have to be careful with. They've still got phenomenal players. They've still got guys that can jump up and beat you. These 2 middle teams, exactly what you want at this point in the season.
Will Shai go off for 84 against the Wizards and break Bam's record? Stay tuned, folks, as far as that goes. And then you wrap up the road trip with the Sixers and then the Celtics. And, I know that we're still a week away from that Celtics matchup, but Rylan, the game they played last week, with everybody talking finals preview and all that, the Celtics were a bit shorthanded in that game. Still was a fantastic game between those 2 teams. And we'll see what the injury report looks like. A lot could happen between now and then. But I would be thinking that they're going to get a very competitive game against Boston there. And we'll see if Jason Tatum plays in that game, of course. But that to me, I can't even believe that game's not even on national TV right now. Like that to me is going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, that'll be the best game of this road trip, and I think that Derek broke it down for you. You look at this road trip. You have the Sixers and the Magic who are in the ICU. You have the Nets and the Wizards who are dead on arrival, and then you have a Titan in the Boston Celtics who's just an Iron Man, and it's going to be an awesome game to see the Thunder go up against Boston again. Boston will be wanting to make a statement in that game. So will Oklahoma City. It just gets you to Boston, ship you up to Boston, and play a fun game up there for the end of this road trip. But the Thunder, in the meantime, though, they have to take care of business, especially as we mentioned with the Spurs being so red hot and also having the favorable schedule, that they have the same opportunity that the Thunder do. If they take care of business in the Thunder drop games, well, then all of a sudden the Spurs are going to steal that 1 seed from OKC, and the Thunder won't get to prolong their streak with the 1 seed to 3 straight years. But listen, the Spurs can win all they want to. The Thunder still have a 3.5 game advantage. If the Thunder keep winning, then it's all a moot point. So they've really got to keep winning in this stretch, because you look at the Spurs and you just you don't see a loss on this schedule, just like you don't see a loss on Oklahoma City's schedule for this immediate week, where both teams are playing some pretty lousy ones.
For you, Derek, the Thunder in the regular season on April 12th against the Phoenix Suns. How long do you think this race for home court advantage goes? When do we get to the point where Oklahoma City, you think, has this locked up and that they can rest some guys and enjoy a break before the playoffs begin? What do you think the timeline is on things?
Yeah, I mean, accounting for a few losses on both sides of this thing, it's probably going to go down to the wire. You know, I don't know exactly what the magic number is for the Thunder, but they've got some tough tests. I mean, you talk about Eastern Conference contenders in Boston. Obviously, we've talked about the New York Knicks. You've got Detroit still on the schedule. The Lakers surging. You play them twice. Denver again. LA's playing some hot basketball. There's a lot of games here that you could lose. To Rylan's point earlier, there's some ones that certainly are not easy basketball games. So I think given San Antonio's easier strength of schedule, but the fact that they've also lost some winnable games, I think this is going to go down to the wire. I think we'll be figuring out the standings basically in that last week, maybe week and a half of the entire season.
Oklahoma City Thunder squad show. SGA's streak continues on. How much longer will it go? Also, March Madness gets officially started tonight with the first four. There's some games in Oklahoma City that fans can attend coming up on Thursday and Friday and Saturday for the first and second round. We'll talk about some players to watch who could maybe find themselves in Oklahoma City next season. All that and more as we continue here on the Thunder Squad Show. Spring is the perfect time to refresh your space and make your home better for you. Whether it's updating a room, adding some outdoor furniture, or finally organizing that cluttered corner, it's a great chance to bring a fresh look into your home. That's where Wayfair comes in, from furniture and decor to organization solutions and outdoor essentials. Wayfair makes it easy to find pieces that match your style and your budget. What I like about shopping on Wayfair is how simple the process is. You can filter by style, size, and price so you find exactly what works for your space. The thousands of reviews make it easy to shop with confidence, whether it's a new desk for a home office, some storage solutions, or outdoor pieces for spring. It's easy to find something that fits both your style and your daily routine. Find furniture, decor, and essentials that fit your unique style and budget. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Derek Parker back here with you on this Tuesday. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. SGA's streak continues as he was able to get to 20 points in that win against the Minnesota Timberwolves on Sunday. Rylan, you were there in the building, and it was interesting watching this game because SGA was having an off-shooting day, but he was still finding a lot of ways to impact this one, especially on the defensive end. And then, what do you know, in the fourth quarter, he found a way to get to 20 points again. I was impressed how well he played despite his shooting just not being there on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you break down what Shai did in that game, and if it were a role player doing that, you'd say you have an elite game, because this guy was the low man rotating defensively. He was breaking up entry passes, getting deflections. He was on offense, starting the blender for their half-court offense, getting that first pass to initiate actions to the guys rolling off of him and taking what the defense gave him as a table setter, as a playmaker. Those were all great, and I mean, he just didn't have it on Sunday as a shooter. The efficiency was dreadful and largely created some great looks. You have to give credit to Minnesota and their defense and the ways that they were able to be physical without fouling him for 47 of the 48 minutes, really, in that game. And a lot of the shots, I mean, they're considered tough for most, but for Shai, they're shots that you want him shooting. They're shots that he's comfortable shooting, and they just didn't go in for him in the mid-range. And that was a game that it looked over. The streak looked over, and it felt like the Thursday historic night felt like a finale from all the fallout from it, and how Shai reacted to it and how everybody reacted to it. But for him to muster up 20 in that game Sunday, it really just shows you how difficult it will be for teams to stop this streak. Minnesota did everything right. Minnesota did everything you possibly could do. They forced the ball out of his hands. They forced him into even tougher mid-range jumpers. They got the benefit of shots not rolling in, and yet he still got the 20 points. It's unbelievable what he's able to do in that department, and credit to him for that.
One of the things to me that stood out watching this game was how well everyone else stepped up when SGA was having an off night shooting, because we anticipate that SGA is always going to get his. And even if he didn't get to the 20, the Thunder were still comfortably ahead in the fourth quarter. They didn't need him to get to 20 to win this game. I love the way that the guys played around him to keep the offense going as if things were normal of sorts.
Yeah, and I think really it speaks to just his development this season. Like, this was finally the year we were like, okay, Shai is a finished product. He's not getting any better. He is an MVP. He's a finals MVP. Like, it's totally fine for him to level out. And what does he do? He comes back and he gets even better at playmaking. 10 assists to 1 turnover versus Minnesota. I thought he was phenomenal at spreading the ball around. Even when the shot isn't falling, he still has the scoring gravity, as we saw, that can set up his teammates, that can get other guys involved. Even aside from Shai, I thought the Hartenstein and Shooters lineup was phenomenal on their own. 2 games before this, Shai has 15 assists to 0 turnovers, the second player ever to do this. His ability to adapt, make others better, despite being probably the best scorer on the planet, one of the greatest scorers of all time when it's all said and done, pretty remarkable.
Remarkable to say the least. So, Rylan, now that the streak still continues, and you mentioned Minnesota did everything right, and yet the streak still stays alive. How much longer, realistically, do you see this streak going for SGA? Can he keep this up through the end of the year?
Yeah, he absolutely could. And I mean, if there was ever a night for the streak to end, it would have been Sunday, and it didn't end. And I think that this could also be something to monitor when you're looking at Shai needing to hit the 65 game rule of, is there a game where he plays the first half and then doesn't play the rest of the game to meet the requirement for the awards? Looking at that Suns game at the very end of the year, if he were to still have to sit out the back end of back-to-backs, the Thunder still have 3 more back-to-backs to get through, starting tonight in Orlando, then Brooklyn, and then they also have a back-to-back at home with the Knicks and Pistons, and then they also have a back-to-back on the road with the Lakers and Clippers. Now, it's not certain that he'll miss the second night of all those back-to-backs, or at least miss one end of those back-to-backs. That's not guaranteed, but if it were to happen, then you see the amount of games he's allowed to miss kind of dwindle to where you have 0 more margin for error. So even if you wanted to get him rest on the last day of the year, perhaps you couldn't, but perhaps you just only wanted to play him to get him requirements met for these awards. So it can become interesting, but I think ultimately, even for as tough as these games are, you look at the defenses who are capable of putting out a Minnesota output. They have length, size, athleticism to put on him, and especially keep up with him in the mid-range. Boston has guys, especially if Derek White plays. New York and Detroit can make life really tough on him. And that's about it on the rest of this schedule here. So he's had success against everybody else at a high clip offensively. And I think that he's going to be able to get the 20 on the teams that we just mentioned. So I'll say that he goes throughout the rest of the regular season. Why not?
Derek, I'm very curious. Does this streak at all change the way Mark coaches? And this is what I mean by this. Hear me out, folks. Let's just say, let's paint a scenario here where the Thunder are playing some lousy opponent and they have a big lead, but SGA hasn't had a great night shooting. Like, do you still keep him in there and let him get to 20, then pull him out? Or if the lead is so big and insurmountable, are you willing to say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and take him out and let the streak die? Do you think that goes into any coaching decision for Mark here? Is it that important to keep the streak going?
I think at its core, that's what makes this streak so impressive, is the fact that has never and will never factor into it. Like, this has been born because of Shai's impact and the fact that he's been able to do this while still winning. And that's the only reason this has continued. Like, if there was any way that Shai scoring basketball points was going to, harm the Thunder's chances at winning a basketball game, it wouldn't happen. And I think that's going to continue to be the case. The good and the lucky thing for Oklahoma City is when Shai is scoring points, it is always good for Oklahoma City. And the second that it's not, I think he will sit and he will go to the bench. And that's not going to be the case for a long, long time. So I don't think it factors in at all. I think he is just that talented. I think he's going to be able to come about this naturally. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. And Rylan, you were in the building on Thursday, of course. Tell me, what was that like? They got a big win, obviously, against Boston, but the celebrations kind of what did this mean to the Thunder and people that were there to witness this happen and everything?
Yeah, everybody was obviously ecstatic. I mean, Shai went over to his family courtside and gave his jersey to them because he said that he's not good at keeping up with memorabilia until he realizes, like, oh, I don't know what to do with the jersey, and I really wanted it. So he made sure immediately on the court to get the jersey to his family. They cut the nets down after the game as well to presumably give some to Shai, some to the Hall of Fame. Of course, you got that jersey patch on Sunday's game for his jersey as part of the partnership with Topps. So he was very excited about it. His teammates were even more excited about it. Kenrich Williams kept in the locker room pounding the table for him to be considered an all-time great player and him to be considered, the best player in this league. But Kenrich has been in that corner for a long time with Shai. And I think that the biggest notion was about Mark and Shai talking about that none of this matters if they don't win games. And you look at their record with this streak intact. They've won a lot of games whenever he scores 20 or more points during the midst of this streak. They've only lost 24 games whenever this streak has been intact. So it's been very additive to this team, and I think that it'll continue to be so. The thing that the impression I get from in and around that building is they only want the streak to continue in an organic fashion. And I think that that's going to be the biggest driving force. I even asked Mark about this in Dallas when Shai checked back in. He already had 20, but he checked back in with about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter of a nothing game. Asking him why that Shai went back into that contest. And Mark mentioned it could have gone either way. Could have rested Shai the rest of the game, but without Jada, they really wanted to ensure that they swept the leg and got the win. So it's like perhaps he plays in some fourth quarters that if they were fully healthy, and they were fully that he wouldn't, and they want to sweep the leg and make sure that they close out the game strong. But I think that the 20-point nature and the streak itself will come very organically to Shai and to this team for however much longer that he can keep this up.
Derek, I think another point to bring up that we haven't talked about in all this of what's gone on recently. It wasn't too long ago that SGA was banged up and was out for a while. And then when he came back, he was playing very well, but he was on a minutes restriction. Based on what we've seen out as of late, that seems like a long time ago now. Like there is what we've seen from him these last few games. It seems like he's fully fine. Like that there's nothing that's lingering or anything. That he is made a very nice recovery since being back, which really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I think if anything, the break, he talked about having his legs under him a little more. We saw a poster dunk in the immediate games after the break. I think there was a little bit of a period where, of course, he's still able to get, 20, 25, 30 points, but he did kind of have to work back into game shape, and that was actually following the first few games back from break. At this point, I would imagine he's fully back in rhythm, both on the court, physically, and especially as you continue to look at the rest of this season. He's got plenty of time to fully hammer out the details in that regard. So Shai, fully back. I think you can tick that box and look to others as you look to potentially get Jalen Williams back, get AJ Mitchell back on track in totality and things like that.
Final segment coming up next here on the Thunder Squad Show. March Madness is upon us, the best time of the year. Who are some of the top players to watch in the NCAA tournament that could find themselves in Oklahoma City next year? We'll discuss that more as we wrap up here on the Thunder Squad Show. Stay with us. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network, nearby, and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly. That kind of doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across 50 states, covering 200 specialists from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. I'll admit, I've definitely put off doctor appointments longer than I should between work, life, and everything else. It's easy to delay. ZocDoc makes the process simple. You can search by specialty or symptoms and actually build a care team that works for you. You can see real-time availability and book instantly. No phone calls, no waiting on hold. Stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Final segment here on the Thunder Squad Show. Rylan Stiles, Derek Parker, Tyler Jones back here with you now. Time to queue up March Madness by Future, folks. That time is here. The NCAA tournament officially begins tonight with the first four from Dayton, Ohio, and then the first round gets started on Thursday. There will be games in Oklahoma City at Paycom Center on Thursday for the first round and Saturday for the second round. And the Oklahoma City Thunder have multiple draft picks to their disposal. Derek, I'll start with you. Who are some players that catch your eye potentially for Oklahoma City that we'll be seeing over the next few weeks here?
Yeah, oddly enough, I think a lot of the top seeds have some guys that are going to make some waves, both in the tournament and pretty soon in the NBA. I'm looking at Michigan. They would be my odds-on pick to win. I think they have one of the most unbelievable collegiate front courts I've ever seen, made up of Yaxel Lindeborg, Morez Johnson Jr., Adai Mara, the two former of which I think both could be Thunder targets. Yaxel Lindeborg, 6'9", wing/forward. He can just do absolutely everything. Going to be a National Player of the Year candidate. He can defend across multiple positions. He can score in a lot of different ways. He does all the in-between stuff, kind of the trench work. Just a phenomenal player. And then Morez Johnson Jr., an undersized big at 6'9", but pound for pound, probably the best defensive player in the country to my eye. He can block shots. He can switch really, really well for his size. He can score a little bit, really good play finisher, and then improving in all the other areas. So Michigan, definitely a team to watch out for. A 2 seed, I'll give you Josh Jefferson, one of my favorite players in college basketball right now. Iowa State, a real sleeper to potentially make it out of their corner of the bracket. Josh Jefferson just does absolutely everything. I would also imagine is going to be a National Player of the Year, leading his team in scoring or right behind Milan Momcilovic. They toggle a little bit. Unbelievable passer for his size, which we know the Thunder like. 6'9". Again, another guy who can defend across multiple positions. Really good positional rebounder. Has absolutely everything on his plate. Everything in his toolkit except for a consistent, really, really consistent three-point shot, which has come around a little bit more in a senior season. I think it could be a little more tenable in a Thunder-type system where he's getting better quality looks. So those three guys, Yaxel Lindeborg, Josh Jefferson, Morez Johnson Jr., that's who I'm looking at.
You, Rylan, who are some of the players that are catching your attention?
Yeah, I'll start with the biggest name, Nate Ament from the University of Tennessee. He was all right in conference play and then was awesome to start SEC play and actually got better as the season went on. One of the biggest concerns for Nate Ament right now, in my eyes, is that he just does not create separation for himself, and it's a lot of difficult shots. And the problem there is, yes, it's fun to hit difficult shots, but if you're getting difficult shots in college against some of these defenders, you can only imagine how little separation he'll create against the best defenders in the world at the next level. But there are encouraging things about Nate's game, one of them being that he averages 20 points per game per 36 minutes. Another one being his free throw percentage. He's at 78.9% right now from the free throw line, which is a indicator used to translate to three-point shooting and touch and feel whenever shooting the basketball. He's at 33% from deep right now on 4 attempts a night. I think that can stand to get a lot better with better spacing, because right now it's all on Nate Ament. The Vols do not have a single other competent offensive player next to Nate Ament. And so he's getting a lot of attention. It's harder to create separation under that circumstance. It's also harder to create high-quality threes, which has affected his percentages. He's a much better shooter than this. And I think that if Nate Ament has a strong showing for a team that I'd be pretty stunned if Tennessee even makes it out of the first round, much less wins 2 games. If they're able to beat the play-in recipient of Miami, Ohio, or SMU, both formidable foes for Tennessee, if they can win that round and beat Virginia, then this is going to put Nate Mint on the map as a guy who's really turned his season around, had a really good SEC tournament play, and he's battling injury while doing so. He's got a lot of leg issues right now. He fell on his hip awkwardly, his knee, his ankle. It's all bad right now. So if he can fight through that and is able to have a good March Madness showing, I think that he can lift himself up into the upper echelon of the lottery and be that kind of a player. Because I think that a lot of the weaknesses right now for him, the three-point shooting we mentioned, the turnovers, again, whenever you're swarmed and have no one around you to take any sort of pressure off of you, and you have this high of a usage rate at 29.6, turnovers are going to happen, and that's just not going to be his role at the NBA level. The second guy is Zuby Ejiofor from St. John's, who I do think can have a deep playoff run. I think that Kansas is going to be looking at another second-round exit, and St. John's is going to be able to beat them. That carries them to Duke. If they can pull off the upset against Duke, that'd be huge. But even so, just another couple of games here of Zuby will get him on the map as a guy that right now, some people love him, like me. I have him at the very, very tippy top of the second round, and I'm flirting with putting him at the end of the first round. Some people are more lukewarm on Zuby Ejiofor. I have him kind of at the end of the second round. I think that he can really solidify himself as a priority second-round pick and might be able to sell some teams on taking him at the back end of the first round, because what he can do as a post-up player and also in transition, running the floor with his size, and as a pick-and-roll roll man where he's just electric at creating separation for his guards by laying a hard screen and getting to the rim downhill and being a vertical spacer as sort of a lob threat or at least an over-the-top pass threat, plus his putback ability. It's all there for Zuby, who can play this sort of smaller ball 5 in my eyes, and defensively, he can do a lot on that end of the floor as well and really shut down the painted area despite his natural frame. He makes up for it by playing bigger than he is. So I think that Zuby Ejiofor can be a guy who can burst out of the scene here, and Nate Mint can be a guy that solidifies his positioning in a big way.
Derek, as you both know, not all drafts are created equal. And when I look at the depth of talent in this year's draft, this is a really good year, isn't it, for Oklahoma City to be in the position they are with multiple picks? We've seen in the past where maybe they've didn't really like where they were at in the board, and they traded the pick for a year down the line or whatever it may be. I think this year is more likely maybe than other years that Oklahoma City actually uses the picks they have to their disposal here and doesn't trade them off for future years. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, they remain flexible. I think they're going to take all options into account. But what I will say is that I agree with you in that this draft is just absolutely loaded. I feel like the highlights are obviously this top 3 of number 1 level guys, top 4 if you want to throw in Caleb Wilson, but obviously Cam Boozer, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsa, you'll be able to watch them throughout the tournament. Cam Boozer could make a real deep run. You could get to watch as many as 4 or 5 games out of Cam Boozer. But that top tier of guys also makes tier 2 better. It pushes down the Kingston Flemings and the Darius Acuffs and the Michael Brown Jr.'s. Tier 2 pushes down, the Hannes Steinbachs and LeBaron Filon and the Axel Lindeborgs. And then that's just kind of a so on and so forth snowball effect until you get to, potentially 14, 15, 16. The Thunder are sitting there with 2 picks. There's potential swings to be had and really good true freshmen, maybe a Braden Burries. There's also these upperclassmen in Thomas Houck and Morez Johnson Jr. and all these different guys that they can look at. I think the depth of the class is phenomenal. I would be shocked if they didn't leave with at least 1 prospect, potentially 2, given that they want to use these to backfill their rotation with cost controls players for the foreseeable future. And I think there's going to be a lot of really good ones here.
So last week I was at the Big 12 tournament, and Sam Presti was as well. Sam Presti was also at the Kansas BYU game earlier this year that AJ and DP were playing in, of course. Rylan, do we have any potential intel on who Sam has his eye on or guys that maybe fit what the Thunder are looking for that are going to be playing here over these next couple of weeks?
The intel is that he watches literally everybody, and this guy is a maniac. Like the process of him crunching film, and then he's someone that doesn't have a one-track mind. He'll be watching a prospect, and you hear these stories about his electric moments that he's talked about in his media availability at the end of years, where you're watching one guy and then this other guy jumps off the screen at you. So now you got to go watch his film, and then it just spins itself into basically getting around to almost every player because he cares that much about the draft. So it would be kind of everybody. I think that you can go a few different ways with this. Partly of where process might be, it's just based upon what he thinks will happen after draft. Or if you think that you're going to move on from one position, one player at one position, you might fill that in with the draft. Or if you think that you have this guy solidified on a longer term deal, you might pivot away from that position in the draft. So it all interworks together. And I think that the biggest thing is just the understanding that this organization is forward focused on best player available. I think I don't think that they're going to let the letter in the position column dictate who they draft because they understand how important it is to nail these picks. You have to.
Which is a great position to be in, by the way.
Yeah, you have to nail these picks because you cannot afford to miss. Right now, this is your lifeblood. Once these extensions kick in, your lifeblood is having cost-controlled talent from the draft on rookie scale deals to backfill a roster that is going to be increasingly expensive as the days go on and as the years go on. So this is an incredibly huge draft. And also, you do want to consider, I think, perhaps kicking a can down the road here of trading one of these two picks if they do fall in the range that they're at right now. Like if you have picks 15 and 16, you could consider trading pick 15 for a future year draft whenever these extensions have kicked in to give yourself another chance at a distant draft to get another cross-controlled guy to fill in this roster. So there's just so much on the table right now that any intel that you hear is just quite literally smoke screen. The Thunder don't let a lot of stuff out at all. So I think that you're looking at a team that is going to be cognizant of every option, and then they'll make whatever decision they see fit, obviously, once the draft does arrive here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lockdown Thunder podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow the Lockdown Thunder podcast so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Go to lockdownthunder.supercast.com and you can join the club. It's ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Derek, Oklahoma City, we mentioned, going to have some first and second round games on Thursday and Saturday. I'll be frank, they're not the best matchups we could have asked for. But still, with that said, there's plenty of talent that's going to be walking in the building there at Paycom Center over the next few days, particularly with that Houston Cougars team.
Yeah, they're one of the best teams in college basketball, bar none. They've certainly got, as a defensive-minded team, some players that I would keep an eye on for Oklahoma City. And to Rylan's point earlier about Sam, watching these games and different players popping, I think that can really happen all over. Like, yeah, some of these teams aren't necessarily maybe the highest profile matchups you see across college basketball, but they've all got really, really good college basketball players just in general, guys that can jump off the screen. And it's a chance for, the Hofstras and the Akrons to go out there and prove themselves against, top 4, top 5 seeds. So it's a fun time. March is just incredible in general. And it's also a way for these guys to prove themselves, maybe not for this draft, but for further drafts. So always a reason to keep an eye on these guys.
Rylan, in March here, I know that, there's so many opportunities to create moments that live on for so many years. Do you think that even though we have an idea of what the draft board looks like when we get there in June, do you think somebody can really elevate their stock potentially or if they have a good run here, do you think that there's somebody that could have a big jump? How much of an impact do you think these next few weeks mean?
I think that this is a classic example of the truth is always in the middle. Like a guy can't have a great tournament and all of a sudden be a top 5 pick in this year's draft class that wasn't already in line to be in that range. But you can solidify your standing and you can make teams feel more comfortable. So, using Zuby as an example, if you're a team that had Zuby as a priority second round pick and like you're really in on him and he has a great tournament, then all of a sudden you go from wondering, well, what am I seeing that other teams aren't seeing, that these teams have him lower, to being all in on that. Nate Amit is another guy. He's been anywhere from preseason, Derek, you'd say he was a top 4 guy preseason, and throughout the year he's fallen as low as like fringe out of the lottery. And if he has a great tournament, then all of a sudden it steadies him. It steadies the water into falling into that 10, 14 range, so to say, in this mix. So I think that it can do that this tournament, but it can't do anything more than that. Like you're not gonna see Flory leap up into, even if Kansas won the championship, he's not gonna leap up into a late first round pick, but you are gonna be able to see some guys that are teetering, where this can really be a deciding factor of where it settles in at.
Right. Walter Clayton played his way into the first round last year. He was projected to be a second round guy, but yeah, you're absolutely right about that. It's easier said than done. Before we go, Rylan, real quick, what's coming up on the channel? Going to be a busy few days here with this road trip beginning.
Yeah, I mean, you got the recap today against Orlando, recap tomorrow against Brooklyn, and then you also have Justin Martinez of the Oklahoman coming by to preview what's next for Oklahoma City to round out this season. So a lot coming up, plus the recap on Washington, bonus episodes, our squad show. So a lot going on. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from.
Great stuff, as always, from Rylan and Derek. Jeremy will be back with us on Thursday. Appreciate you all joining us. That does it for this edition of the Thunder Squad Show. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll see you back here on Thursday at 3:30 Central Time. Thanks for joining us. So long, everybody.